I personally see technology infused in everything, and many industries and leaders that you go to within those industries, particularly if they're dealing with a lot of data, um, are turning into technology companies, even if they don't realize it. Um, and so, if you don't embrace that, then you are honestly left behind. And then in the introduction of this topic of AI accelerates that urgency. And different industries will find a way to apply AI and predictive analytics in a way that accelerates excellence and in their industry faster than those that don't. And it all the core of understanding which part of whatever you're facing relies on technology more is which part has more data. And if it has more data, you can use that data to harness, the speed of decision making.
Welcome to CRE Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals who work with investors, buyers, and sellers of commercial real estate coast to coast. Whether you're an investor, broker, lender, property manager, attorney, or accountant, we're here to learn from the experts.
Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CRE Radio. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jay Darren Gross. This is a podcast focused on commercial real estate investment and risk management strategies. Weekly, we have conversations with commercial real estate investors and professionals who provide their experience and insight to help you grow your real estate portfolio. Today's interview is sponsored by Building Insurance and Risk. When you invest in real estate, it pays to work with a real estate investor protection specialist to protect yourself and your investment from catastrophic loss. The experts at Building Insurance and Risk focus on real estate investor protection. They provide you with multiple insurance coverage offers and a side-by-side coverage comparison. To learn more, go to buildinginsurancerisk.com. Today, my guest is Philippe Lanier. Philippe Lanier is the principal at East Bank, Inc., a DC-based developer with 2 million plus square feet of trophy office, luxury, retail, and residential assets in the greater DC region. And in just a minute, we're going to speak with Philippe Lanier about commercial real estate's evolving intersection with technology and culture. But first, a quick reminder, if you like our show, CRE Radio, there are a couple things you can do to help us out. You can like, share, and subscribe. And as always, we encourage you to leave a comment. We love to hear from our listeners. Also, if you want to see how handsome our guests are, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. You can find us on YouTube at Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. And while you're there, please subscribe. With that, I want to welcome my guest, Philippe Lanier. Welcome to CRE Radio.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm delighted you're here and looking forward to our conversation. But before we get started, if you could take just a minute and share with the listeners a little bit about your background.
Sure. The company that I run is one that was started by my father in the late 80s. So it's been, in my mindset most of my life. I joined at the age of 30, which was nearly 20 years ago. And I've held every position there is to have in the company. So I really know it front to back. My father is a true entrepreneur. So we do quite a diverse set of things within the DC area. But at our heart, we're a real estate development company. We've built buildings ground up. We've taken old buildings and made them new. We've worked with every asset type there is to work with. The city is the city I grew up in, I love, and, I enjoy working within. As a quick aside, I did do some work in technology, so I understand the topic. It's super relevant right now, and looking forward to talking to you about the details.
Awesome. Well, maybe the place to begin, because I feel like the pandemic is a line of demarcation for a conversation about technology in commercial real estate, and specifically how, like what we're doing right now, Zoom has affected this real estate, the class of real estate. And I guess in just to kind of frame the conversation, you said your family's been involved in this for 30 or actually 40 plus years. Uh, can you kind of, I guess, set the stage for what was before the pandemic? Just the what kind of technologies as far as a base level of technology you guys were dealing with?
Uh, uh, yeah, before 2020, there was the odd technology company that was looking to standardize how one would do construction management, property management, leasing. It's not something that's very easy to standardize. So few have succeeded in that effort. And the ones that have invested a lot of money and a lot of sales into establishing dominance in that space. So, a group for those in real estate that would be familiar with that type of a company would be VTS, view the space or view the square. That is a leader in lease and property management. Um, there are many other technologies in that space that remain, a rebuild of stuff that was designed 20 years ago that are not super modern. Then there was technology related around building management systems, energy management, technology related around building access. Um, those have also modernized to some extent over the last 5 years, but really aren't a core part of what it is that we do. They're a tangent on how an individual enjoys the use of the building. Um, I really, it's hard for me to say that technology itself has shaped the way that buildings run or the way that buildings are designed. But the way that individuals use technology have definitely changed the types of buildings that they want to interact with and how much time they spend in one function versus the other. So it definitely has changed the industry. It's just it hasn't changed the way that you do the industry all that much.
Yeah, no, it's interesting the way you framed it. I mean, it is the way the people are using the technology that's framing. And so specific to the technology from your vantage point with commercial real estate, um, a lot of what I heard you saying was more about like the people that interact, like the property management, energy, um, and more of I guess more of the services that are required to service a building. Or you even mentioned like a design and building and
Mhm.
build of a building. Um, with that being the framework, do as we go forward, so pandemic and post pandemic, uh, do you see those technologies being more widely adopted? Are there being, or are people more engaged? Are there more ways to use these technologies than what was previously thought?
I personally see technology infused in everything, and many industries and leaders that you go to within those industries, particularly if they're dealing with a lot of data, um, are turning into technology companies, even if they don't realize it. Um, and so, if you don't embrace that, then you are honestly left behind. And then in the introduction of this topic of AI accelerates that urgency. And different industries will find a way to apply AI and predictive analytics in a way that accelerates excellence and in their industry faster than those that don't. And it all the core of understanding which part of whatever you're facing relies on technology more is which part has more data. And if it has more data, you can use that data to harness, the speed of decision making. Um, and so if you take that back to your question, uh, when I do what I do in my industry, I work with variety of service providers, vendors, participants in what I do, and each one of those pieces may be more levered to technical change than others. So an architect may find a way to design five variants of a building faster with less people than they did 10 years ago. And therefore, as I interact with an architect to design a building, my decision making is faster, and the vision that I have to understand what fits is a little bit more fluid. But it didn't change, so to speak, the speed of putting the building up. Um, and it didn't change the constraints of the dimensions that I'm allowed to build. It just made it more interesting to work with that particular architect. So in that field, I will over time more likely gravitate to architecture firms that know how to harness those tools, so I can have a more productive and cost-effective experience with them. I will still, however, want to work with the architects that have great vision. So you need to have both. And I can repeat that story for multiple different pieces of the real estate enterprise, be it like we've mentioned, property management, be it access control and building systems, HVACs. Um, uh, that's how technology kind of weaves its way into the way that I do what I do.
Got it. So when you say what you do, is
Mm.
this the work you do with the technology out to the various industries where you help them uh, engage the technology to create a better experience for their customer?
No, no. I mean, what I am at the heart is I'm a commercial developer. So what I do is I look at a particular piece of the urban fabric that I could get control over, a piece of land that I can buy, or an old building, or neighborhood, and then I try to reimagine that that I am, working on how it would look, in the next 40 years, and what am I going to put there that suits the community and where the community is going. And to do that accurately, I need to understand the neighborhood. I need to have some sort of vision on where it's going. And I need to work with a variety of different service providers to get me where I need to go. So I have to work, I'm like a producer in a movie, or, a conductor in an orchestra. I bring together all the pieces, fit them together so that the end product is a finished building or neighborhood that people enjoy.
Got it. So with your mention of 40 years,
Mm.
um, I assume you're more of a buy, hold, or develop and hold commercial assets. Is that
That's right.
accurate? Okay.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
so in that, if I look back 40 years and see basically that the bones of the building maybe haven't changed, but all of the 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 guts and the technology that's been applied to the building and I love the conversation about the design aspect, because as somebody who struggles to conceptually understand what something is until I can see it, to me that the design world has totally changed my ability to recognize the possibilities, as opposed to staring at something and somebody describing something and me just not fully understanding what it'll be. So is there an effort in from your standpoint with a 40-year vision to future proof your product to where if additional changes come, that you're easily able to adapt to that, or is that overthinking it?
Not at all. I mean, that's the challenge. And it's a lot harder today than it was 100 years ago, because things change so much faster today. And what is very, prescient about the topic of this podcast and the questions you're asking is, we are at the end of an age. We're at the end of the period where everyone who had imagined the buildings in the past and how they would last forever into the future is fundamentally changed, because people don't need to use the buildings the way they did in the past, accelerated by the pandemic. So the tools that allow for remote work have fundamentally changed the way that people use buildings in the city.
Yeah. So what are some of the focus points when you consider future proofing a building uh, so that it's not something that's to be scrapped and start over again in 40 years?
It depends on the use of the building, but I mean, let's start with the most obvious pain point in the American landscape, which is office buildings. Um, uh, as hard as you try, you're not going to easily force people to show up at the office if it's a bad office. They need to enjoy the 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 experience of working with their colleagues in the space they're working in if they're going to make the effort to take the commute. Otherwise, you're forcing them to do something they don't want to do, and over time, that never works. So today, when I'm imagining an office building, this is not just an economic analysis. I can't say, I'll have a C class, B class, or trophy building, and each one of those are priced differently. And for people that want to have lower rent, but still want to work within proximity. I mean, I work in DC, so still want to work in proximity of the capital. Will want to have cheaper rents in, less amazing buildings. That piece of the market is gone. You have to deliver a building that somebody wants to work in. So when I look at a building or a site, if it is an existing building and it just has bad bones, it has too many columns, it doesn't have enough natural light, it's very hard to reimagine it in a way that makes it worth the investment you're going to put into it. Whereas if it's a more flexible building, then you can convert it into something that has a soul, has a different floor plate that shows how you can move laterally through the building that is not only trapped by an elevator, as an example, and you can create something that people enjoy.
Got it. And with that, is there a hesitation or a concern about larger? I mean, I like the concept of something that has some flexibility and light.
Mhm.
I mean, those seem to be two key components that will, or not necessarily will stand the test of time, but are always in demand.
Mhm.
For whether it be a different occupancy or just just having natural light in any. I mean, it makes a space more flexible as opposed to a space with no natural light.
Mhm.
Um, with that, is there any hesitation for a new project to go as large as perhaps previously? Like if you were building an office tower in the past, you knew what was going to be the use of the product, um, and you went tall and tried to make it maybe like a trophy type property where people wanted to be. Is there any is there a rethink on the size and the scope, or is there how is it that people or is it just more the flexibility is the key component which can overcome all that?
Yeah, it's a complex question to answer. I'll do my best. Um, it is harder to imagine a use on a large floor plate where you have a greater percentage of that floor plate away from the window line. Because the more you create those types of spaces, the more you ask yourself, am I actually going to find a way to use them? Um, Ways to conquer that depth, depending on the size of the footprint and the depth. One thing that's very relevant is a question of structural engineering, and how many columns are you putting through the building to manage the weight dispersion? And the more you can manage it through fewer columns, the more flexibility you're giving. So uh, if if you're imagining building a building in downtown New York City versus a suburban market in a tertiary city, you'll have different decisions on how much money you want to put into the building, how much rent you're going to get out of an occupant of that building. And in today's environment, the developer is forced to spend more on the structural necessities to create that flexibility than they were in the past. And buildings have gotten a little bit more expensive to build because of that. So it's not black or white. It depends on the footprint and the market demand and what's going on with other buildings. But yeah, you have to think about it a lot more than you used to.
Well, in one way, I'm delighted to hear that. I mean, not delighted, but I guess one of the frustrations I've seen, and it's one of just like not being able to understand, is how the economic useful life of a building, if its use is no longer available, and it's a large building, regardless of how much was spent to build it, you see so often, especially in suburbia, is it's basically tore down and they put up a new something new like a Lowe's or something like that out in suburbia.
Mhm.
Whereas if more thought had been put into the initial design, it seems like the ability to convert the space from one occupancy to another gives you a lot more flexibility. With specifically to office construction, because I know there's been some conversations about converting to some sort of habitational use, but I think one of the key components that I've come to understand is that lack of natural light, and then also the plumbing demands for habitational versus an office. Just at the beginning, are those some of the I don't know if they'd be quote design um, elements, but is it in that design for a more flexible space? Is it creating the ability to more easily convert the use, like from one class to another? Is that
It's it is a lot harder than the media makes it out to be.
right?
You hit the nail on the head. To successfully convert an office building to a residential building, to make it simple, it needs to be a skinny building. If it's not, then you're left with a lot of space that really isn't suited for people living 24/7. And these days, when people are looking at a place to live, they do imagine themselves spending days at a time there because they do imagine spending a few days working from home. So it needs to be a better designed building. And to what you're saying earlier on in your question, uh, the what's going on right now is challenging for people that are in the real estate industry, but it challenges us to make better buildings. So ultimately, it is for the best. It does excite me, the challenges that we face.
Yeah. No, it's a fascinating time and a fascinating puzzle to solve. Um, So, do you have any kind of a sense? I mean, obviously, we were talking about kind of a fundamental design shift
Mhm.
from traditional, meaning it's got a one use, to where now we're trying to build in potential use for the future. Is that kind of just it? Is that basically the fundamental shift as far as design, in just making certain that we're not limiting our future use? Is that really what it's come to?
Yeah. I'll say what I thought you asked. I'm not sure that I understood exactly what you asked. I think one of the things that challenges me, if you think about the last 5 years, is we went through a pandemic, and the trajectory of the population of the world growing and everybody continuously shifting from suburban to urban living stalled and in some ways reversed. And then you combine that with a fundamental technological shift in how you use buildings. And then on top of that, you added a complete shift in interest rates in the last 2 years, which decimated property values. I mean, real estate has just been a maelstrom. But when I look out 20 or 30 years out, I think that macro trend of cities becoming ever more dense will come back. I think that's just a mathematical certainty. Um, and others may disagree, but that's my personal opinion. And so we have a period to reimagine existing assets and buildings so that we can prepare cities to enjoy that trend returning. Um, and what it means is a number of the buildings in current American cities just simply are obsolete. They need to be torn down, and it's a much larger number than anybody wants to admit. Even the people that agree with me, they don't want to say it out loud because it's a financially painful uh, um, uh, concept. But it has to happen, and the more modern city will have a different balance of office and residential than it did in the past, because people can spend their lives differently in between buildings or outside of buildings, where they may not be living 12 months out of the year in the city they choose to call home and can get away with it. So cities are in a tremendous period of change. The speed of that change at the moment is limited by the current interest rate environment. We've got many years of digesting bad decisions ahead of us, and construction costs are high. We cannot rebuild these cities as developers unless we can access cheaper capital, and it's just not available right now. So it's all going to take a lot of time. But change is exciting, and people like to work on new things. So while it's a daunting challenge and a lot of reinvention, it can also be a lot of fun. That's the industry that I'm in right now.
Yeah. Interest rates, capital accessibility. Um, what's interesting just in that, because how what a dramatic shift that was to the real estate industry. Um, do you feel like I mean, economic cycles are always hard to predict, um, but clearly they do drive a lot of real estate activity. Um, is the demand there for the change, or do you think that it will interest rates and the access to capital be one of those that really fuels the demand, or is there a? I'm just trying to understand
It's
because it.
it's more the latter. I don't think economically that we're in such a state where the average person has so much discretionary capital that they will overpay in order to realize their desires. They're kind of compromising between what they'd like to have versus what they can afford, and within that environment, giving them something less expensive requires us as developers to access less expensive money. It's just not there. So the main driver really is, a reduction in the cost of capital, which essentially is lower interest rates. The other challenge is that real estate is not unique as being an industry that is reinventing itself right now. It's happening everywhere. Global trade is inventing itself. And one of the reasons why I have challenges attracting new capital is not because I have a bad idea and a bad story. It's that there are 1,000 other good ideas and good stories out there in different industries. So why is this one a particularly better investment than the next one? And we're dealing with a world that actually does have investment dollars to spend, but no clear understanding where is it that they feel most confident spending it. Um, and real estate is really, at the end of the day, it's a fixed asset. It takes many years to get up a big building. And when you make a decision, you're making a 10-year decision with your money. So it's moving slowly.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty nice way to summarize, just the way it works.
Yeah.
And also kind of like more of an overall kind of sense of things. You hinted at AI and how it's going to affect this. Uh, like with the design, an architect being able to do multiple iterations. Um, do you see, are there other areas where you see AI, I mean, that you can easily identify and how it will, I mean, obviously capital is capital. I don't see,
Mhm.
I don't know if there's a way AI is infused in capital to, expedite the availability of less expensive money. Uh, but are there some other ways that you see AI? Um, I mean, easy to identify ways that you see AI infusing into the decisions and how somebody like yourself with development aspects or how AI is infiltrating.
Yeah, it's not going to impact me personally as squarely as it can impact some people that I know. It won't make the concrete cheaper, and the steel prices cheaper, and it won't make the guys that are building the buildings build the buildings faster. But that doesn't mean it isn't going to change anything. So I think the most important thing to understand with AI and where we are in the current, or one of the most important things, where we're at the current life cycle, is that the beauty of AI really rests in the individual that harnesses it. There's an almost limitless application of where AI technologies can be applied, and certain individuals find creative ways to apply them that really revolutionize how they do the things they do. And so within my own company, I encourage everybody in my company uh, to take advantage of the tools and see how it makes their particular function easier. So I go to my leasing team. We do a lot of retail leasing, and I encourage them to find new tenants through AI and not just through traditional brokers. I encourage them to challenge, where other tenants are making decisions in other submarkets based off of the types of tenants we have in ours, and use that to stimulate new ideas. And can they create leasing flyers and communications faster by using AI assisted tools? So they're just better and faster and more creative at their jobs. Um, that's just one example. And I try not to micromanage how everyone is going to use AI enhanced tools to make my life better. I try to give them the freedom to figure it out on their own and see if something surprising comes up. But you know, what I really, I don't want to sound like I'm whining, and I don't want to keep coming back to it. But what I really need to influence radical change in my city and in my skill set is the ability to harness large blocks of capital uh, to take decisive action on areas that I know need it, and where I can, build something great.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Hey, Philippe, if we
Yeah,
could, I'd like to shift gears here for a second. As I
sure.
mentioned to you before we started, by day I'm an insurance broker, and
Mhm,
as such, I work with my clients to assess risk and determine what to do with the risk. And there's three strategies we typically consider. We first look to see if there's a way we can avoid the risk. When that's not an option, we look to see if there's a way you can minimize the risk. And if we're not able to avoid nor minimize, we look to see if there's a way we can transfer the risk. And that's what
mhm,
an insurance policy is. It's a risk transfer vehicle. And as such, I like to ask my guest if they can look at their own situation. Could be your clients, vendors, interest rates, whatever it is that you identify and consider to be the biggest risk. And again, for clarification, while I'm an insurance broker, I'm not necessarily looking for an insurance related answer. And so if you're willing, I'd like to ask you, Philippe Lanier, what
mhm.
is the biggest risk?
Uh, 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 just to answer, because you gave me a little bit of a chain, one of the first important steps, sitting in my seat, and to simplify for your audience, if you were an owner of real estate, is to recognize that the world changed and you lost a lot of money, and not bury your head in the sand. The value was fundamentally changed and it's not coming back. And once you can emotionally get over that, then you're thinking about, how to apply what I know and what I have left to rebuild it and to create something great. And that's where we are right now. I think the worst is in theory over, and then how do we reassess where we are as owners, what we've had lost, and how do we build something new? Um, the you know the biggest risk is, if you haven't absorbed that you think that help is around the corner. If you run out of time, then you're out of the game. If the banks foreclose, then you've lost all sweat equity. It's very difficult to start again. So to make sure you put yourself in a position where you're not hoping for a situation to change. Imagine that interest rates will maintain high for a while. Imagine that this stuff is not going to get easier for longer. Make sure that you're running a company that doesn't, lose money every month in salaries. That might mean you have to let some people go. That's just where we are. And then you solve for the risk of things not getting better. Then you just work hard and build.
The pain is real, but I love the
Mhm.
advice to, so just admit it and go forward from there, as opposed to keep looking for the silver bullet, or something that's going to come and save the day. Because that's really wise. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hey, Philippe, where can the listeners go if they'd like to learn more or connect with you?
Well, if you come through DC, you can look me up and I'll buy you lunch. We have a website. I think, outside of some of the biggest companies out there, real estate websites aren't renowned for their sophistication. They have a temptation of showing every building that you've ever touched. But we do have a website. It's eastbank.com, or if you want to look at the stuff that we build in Portugal, it's eastbank.pt. And for those of you who are not paying attention, it's East Bank with a C, not a K, which allows us to get away with the name, since we're not actually a financial institution. Um, and yeah, we're a well-known quantity in DC. We've done a lot here. We're very well known in retail. We're the largest agent of change in historical Georgetown. So if you come to DC, you'll see the stuff that we build. That's the best way to find out about us. And DC is one of the more interesting cities to invest in America right now. So if you're out there looking for an angle in real estate, take a look at DC. It's where I'm focused.
Awesome. Well, Philippe Lanier, I can't say thanks enough for taking the time to talk. I've enjoyed it, learned a lot, and I look forward to doing it again soon.
Okay, thank you for taking the time as well.
All right. For our listeners, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.
You're listening to CREPN Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals. For more information on this or any of our guests, like us on Facebook, CREPN Radio.